Welcome back to Talk Into the Void, a short series of videos with tips on public speaking online for technical presenters. Now, if you haven't already seen them, do go back and watch the first two parts on the psychology of speaking online, as well as setting up your physical environment. Now, in this third instalment, we're going to be talking about the equipment that we might be using. Now, the overriding idea here is that we should mostly stick to making best use of what we already have. Now, if you're looking to invest in new equipment for the long term, and are wondering where to start, we do have some recommendations for you. But please don't see that as a requirement to invest money and time on something new. So with that in mind, let's start with mics. Not those types of mics, but these types of mics. And we're going to look at some things you probably already have, as well as some that you may decide to go out and buy. So let's start with the built-in mics that you probably already have in your laptop or even desktop computer that you'll be presenting from. Now in general, these have not been designed to be broadcast quality, so don't expect too much from them. In particular, they do tend to pick up a lot of room noise, especially echo, which we learnt to minimize in the last chapter. But they also pick up all of your keyboard sounds, as well as any banging on your desk or other desk-oriented noises. Now, if you're not touching the keyboard, should be fine, but either way, you might want to consider the next section. Before we get there, just an honourable mention to the latest 16-inch MacBook Pros, as well as the 27-inch iMacs. These do have fairly decent mics by built-in standards, although all the caveats we've just mentioned do still apply. You may find other brands that are above average too, but anyway, to be sure, to try it out for yourself. Now, the next step up, you might find surprising. Wired earbud headsets that you typically get with smartphones these days are actually quite good. This is mostly because the mic, which is usually built into the cord, hangs close to your mouth and has been designed for talking into. Now, they're not going to pass as pro quality, but they'll usually do a much better job than a built-in computer mic. The downsides are that they might be hard to connect to your computer. They'll either have an analog jack that needs to be connected to an audio input, either a dedicated mic input on your computer or a separate audio interface. Or they'll give you a digital plug such as Lightning or USB Mini or USB-C, which you may not be able to connect. AirPods or similar wireless earbud headsets can give reasonable results, but I don't recommend them as there are many more things that can go wrong, especially on the technical side, but even just with them falling out. Now, if you do decide to go further, external mics are definitely able to give you much better results, but at a cost. Now, as well as the financial expense, you'll also require an investment in time to research and try out good technique, particularly the angle and distance you speak into them from. If you do go this route, I'd recommend a USB mic, and in particular one of these two shown here. Now, they're both different kinds of mics, and there are some important differences between the two that is worth talking about for a moment. So with the first one, the Blue Yeti. Blue is the name of the company, Yeti is the mic. This is a condenser mic. Now, without going too deep into the technicalities, the main thing to know here is that it's going to pick up more of the room noise. The flip side to that is it does mean it's a bit more forgiving in terms of how close you have to be. The Yeti does have a few different pickup modes though, which changes the shape of the area that it responds to, and the one you generally want for solo speaking is the cardioid pattern. You can think of this as like a donut ring around your mic. That's the area that it's most sensitive to. So comparatively less room noise. But it does mean that you should speak into the side of the mic rather than the top, as you might think. It does come with a desk stand, which is handy, but that also means that it's likely to pick up desk and keyboard sounds like before. Then there's the Rode Podcaster, not to be confused with the Procaster, which is also a good mic, but is analog and requires a good audio interface to plug into. The Podcaster, which is what I'm using here, is dynamic mic. So it has the opposite quality, picking up less room noise, but also requires a bit more discipline in speaking fairly close to it. Dynamic mics tend to have a richer tone, like a radio broadcaster, which suits some voices well, but not others. Ideally, you should have an opportunity to try both types and see what suits you best. The Podcaster doesn't come with a stand, so you may also need to invest in one. Many people get the desk arm like this, and maybe even the shock mount to minimize vibrations. But this is all extra expense, so make sure you're serious about that before committing. In all, you should be able to get reasonable sound from anything you already have, even built-in mics, if you take care with technique and reduce room noise as much as possible. Only spend that extra money if you're prepared to also invest the time and are serious about it. There's also a video from Dylan Beatty you can watch comparing 7 different mics, although none of them are the ones that I recommend here. So let's talk about cameras. Even more so than with mics, the built-in webcam you probably already have will almost certainly be good enough. The camera quality is not going to make or break your presentation, which is more about what you have to say in your slides or demos. But you don't want to be clearly visible, so the tips on lighting in the previous video are the most important. However, if you don't have a built-in webcam, or it's in an awkward place, and a few laptops now have them at the bottom of the screen, which is not a great angle, then you might need to get an external one. There are plenty out there, and most of them should be fine. If you don't want to do any research, then anything by Logitech should give you good results. For streaming purposes, 720p or 1080p should both be fine, but if you're already buying something, you may want to go for the 1080p just for future-proofing. It's also worth considering how you'll mount or stand it. Will it clip to the top of your laptop or monitor, stand on its own, or clip to a desk? Well, it depends on your environment, but take time to consider that and see what you need. Now, the ability to lock exposure and focus, as well as matching the frame rate to your display, and hence the stream, are also nice to haves, but not absolutely essential. Again, and even more so, how you use it and your environment, especially the lighting, are going to be the most important. So that's just a few tips on using the equipment that you have and what to get if you really, really need it. See you in the next chapter.